So tell me, were you a weedy kid at school? Did you ever get picked on? Did you ever wish that you could instill fear in the hearts of your enemies so they would never stop fleeing the sight of you, so never you could be touched ever again? Well, perhaps today's utility belt video would be interesting to you. Today we're going to be looking at the Grawl Ritual Totem, which is an item available in the Blaze Ridge Steppes. It's another one I think should and probably will be nerfed at some point, as many in this series slowly have started to be. This one will allow you to spam fears. It's the same skill that thieves get when they, for example, in PvP steal from necromancers, which will inflict fear in an AoE radius around you, and the closer the enemy is to you, the longer the fear lasts. You're seeing footage here with me just spamming this thing on some poor Wind Riders with no condition duration bonuses for myself whatsoever, and I'm sure if you added that in, then this thing would become even more powerful. Really useful, both in just running around and having a little bit of fun interior, but also in a lot of dungeon situations. You can incapacitate entire groups of enemies, basically. If you're not relying on AoE damage, these things are great for cutting into the amount of damage that people will be doing to you, and even you could have someone just spamming these things for a boss to strip many stacks of Defiance. So it's a really cool item and not too difficult to get either. I got everyone together again to do the dynamic events required, which I'll cut to now, and we'll talk about it a bit more. So the footage coming up will be how to find them. And damn, actually, it doesn't take very long to get them at all. This video is actually a lot shorter than I imagined it to be, but hey, if it doesn't take that much effort to get, then I'm not going to unnecessarily drag it out. So you want to start out in the Blaze Ridge Steppes. If you look at the map here, I'll show you. It's the refuge waypoint. It's here, this zone here, if you didn't know where the Blaze Ridge Steppes were. Very close, actually. There's a whole area here to do with a large crystal. That crystal itself actually is a reference back to Guild Wars 1, where on the same area of the world, there was another large crystal back then. 250 years ago. It's a lot smaller in Guild Wars 2 than it used to be in the first game. In the first game, it would take you ages to walk around this thing, like it was freaking huge. But back then, there were still also a lot of earth elementals around it and stuff, which is interesting enough. Anyway, there will be two events that can trigger in this area. I was hoping to show both of them off, but some Lone Ranger seems to have gone and triggered one already. But the second event in this tiny little chain, which are on a very quick respawn cycle, it seems, is this one where you have to defeat the Grawl Shaman. We dominate the event because obviously we had loads of you guys here and we had a big group, and it doesn't scale very quickly, but essentially you've got 3 bosses to fight, 2 quite easy Grawl to kill, and then 1 larger Grawl, which you can see the mob is dealing with just there. Alone, it can be a little bit annoying if you're not careful because there's a lot of CC going on here. You'll get pulled around a lot, you'll get immobilized a lot, and the earth elementals aggroing on you around the area too don't help at all. But it's pretty easy to solo. Before I filmed this, I just made 100% sure that I could solo it without the big group, and I did manage to, so you'll be able to do this, and the Char scholar lady, lovely woman from the Determined Priory, will talk about how she's been successful with her little endeavours, and you want to follow her. She's going to go... This is another example of a dynamic event that's got interesting other aspects to it, but it takes a while for them to trigger. Like, first the NPC will talk, and then slowly they'll walk off, and you need to know to follow them. You know, there's so much of this in Guild Wars 2. I wish that there was some little part of the UI that showed you that, for example, one event was about to chain into another, or that a merchant was about to unlock. And it's very easy to miss this kind of stuff, but do follow the Char. Obviously, you have no indication that anything interesting will happen should you follow her, but when you do, and she gets back to where we started this video, over at this little town here, she'll become a vendor for you, and she also has some extra information for you about how she's been studying the Flame Legion, in fact, when in fact she sells you the Grawl stuff, which is interesting. The Flame Legion and Grawl are supposed to be in a little alliance, so I guess this is a nod to that. There you go, she's now a merchant. She'll stay unlocked for quite a while. I haven't quite determined whether she stays as a merchant while the original event in the 2 event chain back over the crystal re-triggers. I really don't know, but just like with the depleted power crystals, if you are buying a lot of these things, because again this is a utility belt item that you might want to buy a lot of, just remember to leave the merchant window open, and by doing this, even if she stops becoming a merchant, you'll still be able to buy and sell stuff. So I don't buy too many. I already had plenty in my utility belts, which I will add as well, since there's not too much more to say about this. A lot of people have asked me about my key bindings and stuff with this game. First of all, I've said it before, but I actually use a Razer Naga, which is a particular gaming mouse that has a lot of buttons on the side. It looks like some kind of abomination if you see a picture of it, but it's actually really fantastic for Guild Wars 2, and it essentially means that a lot of my key bindings, all my skills, are mapped onto my mouse, so I have a lot of freedom with the rest of my keyboard. And how this this is relevant to the utility belt is I actually have bound to Q open and close inventory. And I've already discussed kind of how I organise it. You can see it in this video. When I open my inventory, it appears up there in the top left-hand corner, really kind of unintrusive, and it doesn't get in the way of anything. And by binding Q to open and close inventory, I have really quick, easy access to any items in my utility belt, in that first bag, in that first slot, which is really cool. You know, a lot of people have been talking, maybe we should have a UI element that allows you can like bind a specific item to. I don't think ArenaNet will ever do that. It will probably just detract too much from this whole, you know, the very particular limited skill bar system. It would feel like it wasn't really playing into that too well. And also, it seems like ArenaNet don't really want these items to have much impact in combat. To be perfectly honest, they got rid of potions, which were items that were originally going to have a lot of impact in combat. You know, that never came through to the game, so I can't imagine them doing that with other consumables, particularly consumables like this, which you're going to have to constantly pop over and over and over again. As I said, some stuff we've covered in this series recently has been nerfed, namely the depleted power crystals, and this is another one of those things. You know, if it's encouraging someone to buy a stack of them and just keep spamming them, it's incredibly powerful. You know, these things are pretty crazy, and I kind of expect this might get changed as well at some point. I just hope that they remain at least somewhat viable, because those crystals really aren't viable at all anymore. Anyway, what you're seeing me doing now is we thought, well, what can we do with these that would be vaguely fun, a bit like the landmines? I wanted to see if nobody attacked the veteran, how much fear we could stack on just by everybody using them. I'm auto-attacking him accidentally, and then some guys from the back, I guess, decide, oh, let's just kill him. So we didn't get to stack too much fear up before he died, as you can see here, but we got about 13 seconds, which is interesting. Another thing I was playing with was the idea of fearing an enemy as far away as you possibly could and see how far you can get an enemy to. But after a little while, you hit like a big barrier and the game just says, nope, they're not going anywhere else. And it will either teleport them back or they'll just kind of break it, aggro in a really weird way. Or more than likely, they'll get stuck on a cliff or a wall. So anyway, there you go, guys. That's the Grawl Ritual Totem. Not too much to say, but very powerful items. Get to spam fear, and that's how you get them, where you get them, and vaguely what you can do with them too. I think stripping Defiant is quite important. Think about some fractals like the one with the giant Dredge power suit, for example, or the Ice Elemental in the Dredge fractal. You can strip the Defiant away from him, so even if he doesn't have superheated on him, you can interrupt his heal, which is an interesting idea there. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. I know this was a short one, but we'll have more utility belt stuff in the future, and I will see you next time.